Hey everybody, welcome back to our neck of the woods. It's Thursday the 27th. Tomorrow is the pour day around 10 a.m. We got to get a few things buttoned up. We got to go to the store. I need one more 2x6 to go ahead and get in here. And then we'll use a little bit of this stone left over to kind of backfill in here. As you can see, I kind of made a ginormous hump here to keep that 2x6 pressed up this way. So that way we can have a nice concrete apron coming out of the garage. So one more board here. I did read some of your comments and I do agree. Some of these panels have moved and shifted, and you can tell even when you're pushing down on them, they've made some huge humps and rises. Pretty upset that closed cell foam board like this can move so much, but because of the moving and because they're warping in the sun and everywhere else, where I have a crack, I'm worried about concrete getting down in there, getting under, and lifting these panels up. Now, that's probably not going to be too much of an issue because, as you can see, for most of the radiant tubing, I went ahead and put a clip on each side. So concrete's not going to get down in there too easily, but these are lifting and moving quite a bit. So I'm going to go spend 40 more bucks, buy one more roll of the plastic vapor barrier, and I'm going to put that vapor barrier down over the whole thing so that way concrete can't get down in any cracks. It'll just push the vapor barrier down, pushing down on the pecs, pushing down on the foam, and keeping everything down and locked in. So we're going to go get that. I need a couple more 2x8s to go up in here for bracing that I was short on. Those boards will take care of a few of them, but again, I still need some more. On an interesting side note, the lumber for the first floor showed up. So Menards delivered it, but they hired a local crew to deliver it, and oh my gosh, I can't believe what they were doing. I told them to back into the driveway. They had a flatbed truck, but it wasn't a long flatbed truck. I mean, the excavator flatbed was probably 20 feet longer. This guy insisted on parking the truck out in the street, taking his tow motor off the back, and then trying to bring everything in on a tow motor. Well, on the front and the back of the house, where the LVLs are going to attach to the Simpson Strong ties that are in the ICFs, those are 26 feet long, and I got to cut them down to like 25 something. So he's trying to bring in 26 feet of lumber in between this walnut here and this one, and he literally can't do it. So I'm like, dude, put it back on the truck and just back in. You can bring your tow motor right in here through the grass, lift it up off your truck and set it down. And he's like, oh no, that won't work, that won't fit. And I'm like trying to argue with the guy for 10 minutes on it. Finally, I just sat back in my tractor because I was doing some backfilling, and I just watched him have a mess at it for like 20 minutes. He didn't hit anything, and he wasn't going to, but he's like in and out and in and out and in and out, and I'm just sitting there with my hand over my face being like, oh my God, what are you doing? The other thing I was a little worried about is our floor joists are also showed up. And they keep saying P3 all over the place, but in our design plan, it was supposed to be called a PJI 60, and nowhere on these does it say that. So I'm looking and looking, I'm looking at the paperwork. The paperwork says one thing. There's also 2 different part numbers for each one of these. And what worried me is the I-joists have a piece of just regular lumber. I thought this was supposed to be an LVL top plate. So that had me concerned that they brought the wrong one, or this 14-inch I-beam was maybe there's 2 different types of 14-inch I-beams. But finally we noticed on one of these papers over here, these green papers, and this one here, it does say PJI 60. So the engineer from Menards, who I think works for this company, this Ecom company, he looked it up, looked at the spread, and said, yes, this is what you want to go with your 14 inches, with your span to the main beam, and it'll work fine. But it just, I was sitting out there for 10 minutes trying to figure out if these were even the right ones. And they are. I finally found it somewhere on there, even though, again, their paperwork, my paperwork, and this paperwork, no serial numbers match up. It's just finally in one spot, I just saw PJI 60. I know there's some controversy over these. I know there's 3 different ways that you can make a floor system. You can do regular, like 2x12s. You can do LVL beams. You can do these I-joists, and oh, for a 4th one, there's actually engineered trusses. Engineered trusses are basically a 2x4 bottom plate and top plate, and then they've got 2x4 like V's and W's going all the way down. Those are great. They can't span as long as distances as I-beams, but for your HVAC and everything, it's great because you have these massive holes that you can just put everything straight through. 2x12s are cheaper, but to me, they're a pain in the butt to work with. You're gonna have some 11 1/4s, you're gonna have some 11 1/2s, you're gonna have bowing, you're gonna have cupping, you're gonna have crowning, you're gonna have everything in the world when you use standard lumber. So that was out. The engineered trusses, they're too expensive. LVLs are too expensive and they're overkill. I mean, they're freaking almost 2 inches thick. But obviously they can span the longest distance, but again, they're the most money. So wasn't gonna go with LVLs, especially when you gotta drill holes through for wiring and HVAC and everything like that. So the I-joists are the easy to work with. They're the lightest, they're the 2nd cheapest. You can drill good size holes in them as long as you drill them in the appropriate spots, like for how high you want to be and how close you want to be to an end versus how close you want to be towards the middle. They're engineered, so they're perfectly straight. Now, having a actual wood top plate and bottom plate, that may give you a little bit of offness, if you will, just like a 2x12. Again, I was expecting those to be LVL top plate and bottom plates. I've seen them both ways. I guess it just depends on the manufacturer. But these people who drop these off, he had his wife with him, and I literally told her 4 times, even looking at the engineer specs, saying that these I-beams will support the weight. They'll go the distance. They're stronger, can span longer. They're engineered. They're great. And she's like, oh no, you can't hold a house up with that. And I'm like, lady, it literally says deflection is only like 0.2 inches at like its center, and it can hold like 3,100 pounds or something at its center for its deflection. So I'm like, trust me, these will work. And she's like, oh no, that's unsafe. You can't do that. Okay, you've built a lot of houses with I-beams, I'm sure, so I let it go. But quite funny when people don't know products, that they look at it and they're like, oh my gosh, you can't do that. Now, with that being said, because I am a nurse and because I work with medics and everything like that, they have voiced their concerns, and I 100% agree with them. Yes, if this house catches on fire, those can be dangerous. Obviously, you've got a little tiny web of OSB holding up your floor. That is going to burn like that, as opposed to a 2x12, that's gonna take forever to burn. And even when it burns, or when you see a house fire, sometimes house fires, the studs are still standing up. So those 2x4s and 2x6s last a long time in a fire. So I do agree with them. I don't want that in my house, again, for the install and the weight and the fact that, again, you can't drill big holes through 2x12s and all that stuff. I would rather go this route, but if there is ever a fire in my house, I guess I can give a warning out, unless I'm not home, to, hey, you're gonna be walking into a house with I-beams. I wouldn't stand in there too long. I would spray from the outside. It's not as a safe floor. My friends have also had conversations with me about, the conversation came up with LSL studs, and they're like, and again, I saw thousands of comments on this. You can't use LSL as studs. They're unsafe, they're dangerous, they'll never be able to hold the weight. Again, it's an engineered product. It's multi-layers of oriented strand board pieced together for 1.5 inches, 2 inches, 2.5. I mean, you can get LSL's crazy thickness. You can go way taller, 24 inches on center. Trust me, they'll hold the weight of an entire house up. But the argument came with, again, a house on fire, an LSL burning faster than a 2x4 or a 2x6 because it's not a solid piece of lumber. I think they would hold up just as long. Yes, they're glued together, but again, you can get them thicker. So if you have more material, the burn rate should be longer as opposed to smaller material, even though the smaller material may not be glued together and it's a whole product straight from a tree. So I don't know, not going to get into the arguing and talking about that. And I know people are either for or against I-beams. I know they're used millions of times over in houses and they're fine. Again, it's just if your basement ever catches on fire, that floor is going to weaken. Yes, it probably is going to weaken faster and your floor is going to collapse. So I guess we all sit here and pray that we don't ever have our house catch on fire. So we're gonna head to the store now. We're gonna get the vapor barrier, throw it down, finish this off. I'll probably finish the blocking some other time. And then I have Adam coming over with about 2 more truckloads or 3 more truckloads of 57. I was actually pretty shocked with this side here being as skinny as it is. I've got tons of stone from what little pile was here that it's actually brought it up quite a good distance. I know most builders, even fine home builders, probably don't put this much stone in. I can probably start to do soil backfill at this point. But I got at least all of the front of the garage and pretty much almost all the front of the house done. The lowest spot is probably starting right in there to there. I could probably use a bucket or 2 more of stone in here. But that gives us a decent amount of stone. We can go ahead and pull the geotech fabric over. So that way we've got the geotech fabric under the French drain. We'll have it over the French drain that's a good 2-3 feet plus in there that it'll allow for good drainage. And then we can start bringing in, I'm assuming some of this soil here and do a backfill and grading. The only thing I'm worried about this that I've never really researched and figured out 100% on is if you're backfilling with clay, the clay is going to make water almost impossible to pass through, which means water is going to hit that grading and just basically come off into the front yard. Well, if you've got a French drain wanting to take that water down, it's almost like, well, why don't some people just backfill 100% with clay? That way the clay just runs off the grading and never actually makes it down that way. Obviously, it will eventually, so I guess that's why you use backfill of stone and stuff like that, but it's just a thought that's been bugging me for a while. Obviously, if we backfilled with topsoil, water's going to go through that topsoil even if you have grading, hit that stone and go all the way down to the French drain. But this clay has me either a little happy that we're keeping water away from the French drain and not always having to use it because it'll run off that clay down here. But then again, it's like I did all this work and water really can't ever get down there. So I don't know, just a thought process. After we get the basement poured, it's been raining a few days. We've got to get a little bit more sand in here. Like I said, I was about 4 tons low. So that should do this. The rain has actually really helped bring all of this sand down more level. So when I throw down the vapor barrier and the 2 inches of foam, it should lay nice and flat. You can see French drain still working amazingly. It fills up the sump pump perfectly. And when I turn on the power, oh, we got to go get caps for these too. I'm tired of dirt falling down in here. We got to get those capped off, but you can see the water actually running through this French drain like a nice river when you turn the pump on. So we're still great there. And I guess in the next week or 2, we'll finish off the dimple membrane, wrapping all the way around, and we should be good. So I will probably see you guys tomorrow morning, bright and early. The first truck should show up at 10 a.m. and we should finish that off. And then once the concrete's all good and hardened, we can start working on the basement. I want to see Randall's work first on his finishing ability. I've seen his pictures online. They look amazing. but firsthand, I want to see that my garage at least looks pretty. Then that way I know we can move on to the basement and knock that out too. But that we'll have to do a pumper truck to get over all of this to do the basement. So tomorrow we should just have the concrete trucks back straight up in here. I think they come with at least 20 to 30 foot chutes on them that we can attach together to start doing the back first and then tapering out. But should be exciting. It's the first kind of floor I've ever seen poured and worked with, so it'll be nice to see it firsthand and get some experience. But again, we'll see you tomorrow morning for the pour, and fingers crossed weather holds out and it all goes smoothly. So 2 things real quick. Just got back from the store. I went ahead and got 4 mil vapor barrier this time. Again, I just wanted something really cheap. All we're trying to do is when we pour the concrete tomorrow is the cracks that opened up. We're just trying to keep the concrete out from going down in those cracks and potentially going up under the foam and then lifting it up. So again, it's a 10 foot wide, 100 foot long roll, 1,000 square feet. Should be plenty for the garage. I'm gonna go front to back this time instead of side to side. That should give me full coverage of this stuff. So that should work out there. The other thing I wanted to go over real quick is the concrete. This is going to be the most expensive concrete that we use so far. So for example, the footers, that was only around $124 a yard. It was a 3,000 PSI mix, had number 57 stones and number 8 stones in it. There was no special additives. It was obviously too watery. They said it was around a 6-inch slump, which is basically how thin it is. The higher the slump, the thinner it is. But obviously it has to go up and through a pumper truck, so that's why you had 57s and number 8s, and that's why you had it more on the thin side. But it was a 3,000 PSI mix, etc. The wall mix, however, the wall mix they infuse air into it or something. I don't 100% know why they do that for walls, but for that, we stepped up to a 3,500 PSI, and it was a number 8 only mix. Because that wall has so much rebar in it, the plastic straps, the Fox HV clips, I wanted no 57 in there because I didn't want 57s falling a foot down and then getting trapped on rebar, and then it couldn't make its way down in there, which is going to block, you know, concrete from getting up underneath of that stone. So that was an 8 only mix. That was only $132 or $134 a yard. The garage now has got a lot going on with it. It's a 4,500 PSI. It's going to be a 57 mix only because it's not going through a pumper. It's only going down the chute. It's got fiber mesh in it, so we do not have to use any rebar in it. And then what's making it more expensive is it's got a special additive in it, some chemical, that basically is allowing them to lower the water content. Now, if you're not familiar with that, the more water you have in concrete, the weaker the concrete is. In fact, you can Google a couple things on YouTube, and I think Project Farm, maybe someone else, did a test on concrete where they used almost no water, more water, and then like all water. And it was amazing. The concrete that had almost like no water in it, super, super hard to work with because you can't form it, you can't trowel it, can't do anything with it. But it was amazing how much stronger it was than the water mixes. So obviously you need some water in here because we need to trowel it smooth, but we don't want too much water and have all that water evaporate and then leaving a garage floor where heavy traffic is going to be on it where it can crack. So that special additive takes the place of water or something, lets the concrete harden a lot stronger, so that way you are pouring a 4,500 PSI and maybe not dropping down with too much water to like say a 4,000 PSI. So that's $162 a yard, definitely going to be the most expensive, but this is going to be the most crucial, that I don't want it cracking and degrading over time because of traffic. The last bit of concrete that we're going to have that's a little different again is the basement floor. Again, I don't want to have to do rebar with the time and energy it takes to put all that in there, etc. So that's going to be a fiber mesh also. It's probably going to have that additive in it to let it harden, but it's only going to be a 3,500 PSI. But because it has to go through a pumper truck, it'll have number 8s back in it also. So We're gonna have basically 4 different types of concrete that are going into this house. Again, just wanted to tell you a little bit about what we're using and why there's a difference. The first floor walls are gonna be the same as the basement, number 8s only, 3,500 PSI, wall mix with air, whatever. Some people may concern with fiber mesh being down on the floor, especially in a basement. Your concern is valid. That fiber mesh can stick up through the concrete, and if you're walking down in your basement with bare feet, yeah, it's like you're standing on fiberglass. You'll get it in your skin, it's itchy, it sucks, so you have to kind of trowel it specifically, and basically wait some time for it to harden and then broom it and clean it up to kind of break that fiberglass fiber off so it's not getting stuck. But the basement eventually will be all carpet or porcelain floor, you know, like fake hardwood type floor, so we're not going to be standing directly on concrete, so that is a concern if it was bare concrete in like the utility room, but we'll take care of that at a later date. But just wanted to update you guys on those 2 things that we're doing there and what we're using, and again, we will see you tomorrow morning. 1,000 square feet, my. All right, so it's the next day. We just had 14.5 yards dumped. My calculation for 14.5 yards was only for 5 inches basically all throughout. Now 5 inches is up here, but we obviously had to taper it. So as you can see, we're definitely short. I think I just calculated about another 5.5 yards that we're short. So there's a 3rd truck coming on the way right now. We're definitely gonna have more concrete than what we anticipated. Back along the back wall, I think we have almost 8 inches. And if you remember me saying earlier, it's a 4,500 mix with fiber strands. And there's a water additive that will let it dry a little better and not have all the water come out. So these are the fiber strands that we're talking about. These basically act as kind of like steel rebar, holding it together a little better. But so far so good. Just have to pay a little bit more on concrete to fill it out. And then Adam just went ahead and dropped off a load. He's gonna come back a little bit later and bring in 1 more so we can go ahead and finish the backfilling. But so far so good. It rained for a second. Hopefully it holds out, and then we'll be back at it. Well, we're inside now. It's absolute monsoon right now. Hopefully the concrete will be okay. Not with those branches laying on there, but the leaves aren't gonna help any. We still have to, we did get it done with the bowl float, so hopefully enough water hits it that it'll actually smooth the top of the concrete out, as opposed to the 10 minutes of rain that happened before. It was just leaving like pit holes. But I think this weather will be gone in about 30 minutes or so. If that happens, depending on the state, how hard it is, we'll be able to take out the power trowel and any of the leaves right now that are sitting on there, because right now the top of that is extremely wet. Any leaves or water sitting on there that's doing anything, we may have to bowl float it 1 more time. Hopefully that'll go away. The power trowel should take everything down and cut all of those fiberglass hairs that are sticking up, because some of them are sticking up like over an inch. We got to cut those off and get those down a little bit, but he's poured in heavy rain before, so we'll see what happens. But just our luck that this has to happen, and it's kind of already calming down now, but again, just our luck that, oh heck, I can tell it's already pitting like in here. But we'll be able to see the drainage and stuff at least to make sure the taper and everything's going well. But no, hopefully we'll be back at it about maybe 30 minutes. We'll see. Alrighty, another day, another project complete, another whole mess of issues. So the rain kept putting a damper on things. Every time we try to put the power trowel on or try to hand smooth it out, the rain would hit hard enough and put dimples in it, and then it would kind of take the top layer off. I think Randall kept calling it the cream, and it would start popping up all of the sand. So this entire floor just kept looking like just like a beach, like you threw sand on concrete already. Probably not bad for slip resistance and stuff, but luckily in the past probably 2 hours or so, hasn't rained at all. He got the power trowel out. He really hit it hard. The fiber mesh has also been an issue. He's like, I've never seen so much in my life. Usually for something like this, if you're gonna use fiber mesh, you'd go ahead and throw down maybe like 1 to 2 pounds per yard. They gave us like something like 4 to 5 pounds. So the rain would kind of bring the fibers up. They were using some of my foam to kind of smooth out the concrete and get all the leaves off. And then if you look right here, just massive amounts, piles of fiber thrown in with everything. And it's actually kind of interesting. I thought this fiber was more fiberglass, but I actually put a lighter to it, and not only does it burn, but it burns back and then stays burning. So it's almost like plastic, or more like a string kinda. As you can see, it's sitting absolutely everywhere. Luckily, most of these, yeah, see, these can just brush off, but there are a lot that are still in the concrete. And if you pull up on them now, like if you try and pull up on this one right now, you're gonna leave a hole. So I don't wanna pull up on that. The good thing is because these burn so easily, what I think I might do is just grab a propane tank and grab one of those handheld blowers. Like they've got a tip on it, like about that big. You light it, walk around with the propane tank, walk around with the blower, and you can just go back and fast, and literally I can cook all these off in a few seconds. So that might be the easiest way to get rid of them, besides just constant traffic and walking on them. But I really only care about the apron here. Like I said, inside of the garage, we're actually gonna have some tiles, and I priced those out yesterday. They're 20.5 inches by 20.5 inches, so they take up a good amount of space. But I was picking to see what colors I wanted, what type of pattern I wanted. So literally the entire garage floor will have some cool design on it. There won't be any concrete that you can actually see. So that's why we only broomed finish the apron here up to where the inside of the doors will be. And then we still have to basically burn and get rid of all these fibers out here. So it'll be a process, but we'll take care of it. Just remove the forms. As you can see, the concrete consolidated quite nicely. There's a few spots, but this is one heck of a floor. Again, 5 inches out here, and to get our proper taper, which I really don't want to walk on there, even though I can, you can kind of see where this one foam block ends right there. If you can see that line for that last foam block, as you get about down there, you're probably 5 inches below where that row of block ends. So we've got almost 8 inches of concrete back there, 4,500 PSI with the mesh, with the water reducer. This thing's gonna be able to hold up a tank. No ifs, ands, or buts. We didn't mark out anything in the floor here for 2 posts, and I've always been going back and forth what type of lift that I do want. The 2 post lifts are great. They don't take up a lot of room. You do have to bolt them down to the floor, which the post lift people do say you have to have at least like 6 inches of concrete, 4,000 or 5,000 PSI or something. So it's got to be a strong base. This is it. This is 100% it. The problem with a 2-post lift with the arms that swing out, they never get under lowered cars. So it's almost like you have to pull a car in onto 2x4s or something, getting it up more into the air, then swinging them in under. That was always a problem with the 370Z race car. The Porsche is still factory height, And in fact, it's actually a little taller than factory because the wheels are an inch or so taller than factory. So divide that by 2, it's about a half of an inch or more higher than factory. That front lip though is 3 inches lower. It's just extends the lower bumper down. There's nothing up underneath of there. So depending on how bad that lip is, I may be looking into more of a scissor lift. There's another YouTuber, Obsessed Garage. He's got a 911, I think it might be a GT2, or it might just be a regular 911 turbo or something, I can't remember. But he's got a scissor lift. You basically just drive the whole car up on it, and then it scissors it on up from the front and the back. So with the floor being relatively flat with only a 1/8 inch per foot slope, that should be okay. It's not like the scissor lift is going to want to fall because the floor's got too much slope in it. It's relatively flat, but I don't know, that'll be in the future. But again, I think it turned out pretty nice. Again, he just turned that power trowel power way up and just started burning those fibers off and really getting the cream to come back up, because it was a major issue with just raining and then stopping and then raining and then stopping. So but overall, I think a job well done. Corners and everything look good. This corner right here, this flat piece here, this is where we're going to continue down through here all the way back to there under the trailer, and that's going to be my pad. That side over there will also kind of come off this corner, but it'll go a little bit more this way because I do want the pad to not end like in here. I want it to end basically where the thin part of the driveway is. So as you can see, this one is all the way over here. So this one's gonna have to take kind of a sharp angle over to here and then go over there. But that'll be when the house is done. There's no concrete that's gonna get poured in here in case we have more pumper trucks or semis coming to take all this dirt, excavators to put the dirt in the semis, etc. So yeah, so I think we can wrap this video up here. Thank you again for all of our subscribers. Like I said, that second 200 went really fast. I think under 3 weeks, while the first 100 subscribers took over 8.5 weeks. And we're already well above 200. So thank you so much from Aaron and myself. We're gonna keep bringing you content while we get this house going. A local YouTuber did contact me and talk to me a little bit more about the radiant heat system with boilers, expansion tanks, and stuff like that. So I got a lot more understanding of it now. So one day we'll be able to go to Menards and pick all that out. But we may be able to do radiant heat on the cheap instead of worrying about if the ductless AC/heating units are enough to do everything. But we'll get back at it here tomorrow, start filling in some more stone. Adam brought 2 loads over today. So we got to get all that in and get the dimple membrane finished. Luckily, tomorrow is Saturday, so either Saturday or Sunday, Aaron and I can finish on down with the dimple membrane and backfill. And that should be, I think, pretty much good for this video. Please like and subscribe, share, comment if you guys have any questions. Turn the bell on so you can get notified of upcoming videos. And we'll see you all next time. One thing I do want to add real quick, this 57 round is impossible to stand on and drive on. So as you can see, it just collapses. Adam will be bringing over about 5 yards or 5 tons of limestone. So I will have that limestone come up this 5 inches and then taper it out to about here. So that way when we drive up on, that limestone locks a lot better because it's got small particles up to, you know, number 57 size, about like that. But because they're all jaggedy and stuff, they do lock in as opposed to this round stone that just pushes away. And I 1000% don't want to drive a vehicle up in here and like crack this concrete off. So we will have a nice taper at 57 that he'll be bringing in sometime this week also.